Hello, my name is Garrison Anderson, and this is my persuasive speech for my Speech 1311 class at the Tarrant County College Northwest campus. The United States Constitution and the Second Amendment states that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I'm of the belief that the Second Amendment is one of the most debated topics, if not the most debated topic, in the United States as a whole. And really, it boils down to two main things. Our first is gun rights, and our second is gun control. And I see this as our problem here. Let me explain why. There's no discourse between the two sides to try and find a compromise, and as a result, this rift grows wider. So, I believe that is the burning question we will be asking ourselves today is compromise on this issue possible? And my answer is that I believe it can be made on an issue as important as this one, so long as it is done correctly. But before we look at our solution, we have to look at our problem. So those in support of gun control will rely on two main factors to get their points across. The first is buzzwords and phrases. The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines the phrase buzzwords as an important sounding, usually technical word or phrase often of little meaning used to chiefly impress laymen. So those who support the idea of gun control will often use buzzwords or buzz phrases to emphasize their side of the argument. One such buzz phrase or buzzword that they use is the buzz phrase semi-automatic rifles, guns that are including but not limited to the AR-15 and the AK-47. Those are guns that those who support gun control are attempting to remove. Congressman Beto O'Rourke, we will get to him in a second as you see him in that photo. But they will also use, those who support gun control also use moral grounds to defend themselves. Jason Silverstein, who is a writer for CBS News, reported and compiled a list of the total 417 mass shootings that occurred in 2019, some of which were in less than 24 hours of each other, including the shooting in Dayton, Ohio, where 9 were killed and 27 were injured, and El Paso, Texas, where 22 were killed and 24 were hurt. In the third presidential debate, as you can see, Congressman Beto O'Rourke used a little more of a heartstring, emotional, moral judgment on the issue. When he was asked on this question, he says, "I met a mother of a 15-year-old girl who was shot by an AR-15, and that mother watched her bleed to death over the course of an hour because so many other people were shot by that AR-15 in Odessa and Midland, which were two other shootings that occurred not too long after that. There weren't enough ambulances to get them in line or get to them in time. Hell yes," he says, "we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore." So by using moral grounds, those who are in support of gun control will often use both statistics of gun shootings and particular instances and stories or witness accounts to show that gun control is absolutely necessary. So now that we've covered one half of our problem, we also have to look at our next half, which would be those who are in support of gun rights. There are several mainstream commentators and individuals who have said in one form or another things that are in support of the Second Amendment. Author and podcaster Graham Allen says, and I quote, "Our rights and freedoms as Americans are not up for debate." And then our second one is Dave Chappelle, who is a very, very, very famous comedian, said that the Second Amendment is just in case the first one doesn't work out. In addition to these mainstream credibility folks, many people believe that gun control will become a slippery slope if it is not done correctly. For example, if you start with the semi-automatic rifles, such as the AR-15, the AK-47, chances are, you keep going down the line, and eventually you'll get to things such as maybe like a knife ban that they have in the United Kingdom. One such political commentator is Ben Shapiro, who is also the editor-in-chief of the Daily Wire. He stated that the government would be able to use a power grab if gun control laws were not implemented and used correctly. In addition to these acknowledgments, gun ownership has actually increased in the United States rather than decreased due to these issues. Stephanie Pagonis with Fox Business reported that there were over 2 million new gun owners in the first half of 2020 alone. And in addition to this, many people believe that on the gun rights side of the aisle, that mental health is the primary factor that has not been addressed. And this is very much so. A National Institute of Mental Health showed that in 2017, young adults who have been primary perpetrators in some of these shootings, including the one in Parkland, Florida, in early 2018, had the highest prevalence of serious mental illness. So as we can see, that the support of the Second Amendment is that to enforce gun control gets us in a slippery slope that removes rights from Americans entirely. So here's the burning question. Can there be compromise? And I will refer to our founding fathers again. This is John Sherman that you'll see in this picture here. He was the one that formed the Great Compromise that formed our system of government. So if a compromise can form a system of government that has stood 200 years plus, almost 250 years now, can a compromise help solve an issue such as this one, a great divide such as this one? And I believe the answer, as I've said, is yes, so long as it has been implemented correctly. One such option is background checks. Many people believe that background checks are crucial to who can buy guns and what kind of guns they can buy. Criminal background checks are required for many things, like looking for apartments and applying for jobs. And so therefore, if we can manage to create more extensive background checks while maintaining the rights of freedom and freedoms of American citizens, that would be a lot more beneficial all around. And our second option is a more focus on mental health. According to the WHO, nearly 800,000 people die from committing suicide every year. So there has to be a more formal approach on how mental health is handled, especially in the United States. And so with these options, we can determine that there are at least primarily two options that can be used to help proper discourse retake its shape, as well as compromise being more approachable and agreeable to both sides. As Americans, we have to understand that gun control is a touchy subject, but if we can find common ground, we can once again become the United States of America. These are my sources. I thank you for your time.